For nearly 50 years, Voyager 1 has drifted steadily away from everything familiar, beyond our planet, beyond our reach, beyond everything we've ever known or touched. It left Earth carrying a message from humanity, our voice, our hopes, our music, and a golden invitation to whatever might be out there. And for decades, it has moved in near total silence through the cold dark, sending back nothing but data, quiet, consistent, uneventful, until recently. In May 2025, that long silence changed. A signal came through, not static, not the usual digital hum, but something strange and distorted. At first, it looked like a malfunction, a dying probe misfiring at the edge of interstellar space. But the more scientists examined it, the more unsettling it became. There was a rhythm to it, a pattern. It didn't align with any Earth-based system. That's when unease began to settle in. Not because Voyager was breaking down, but because, perhaps, it wasn't. Maybe after all these years, something had noticed it. And maybe it was trying to speak. The anomaly started with the probe's attitude, articulation, and control system. Essentially, the part that ensures its antenna stays pointed at Earth. It began returning corrupted data, readings that contradicted what should have been happening. According to those signals, the spacecraft had turned in a direction that should have cut off communication entirely. Yet the data stream kept coming, clear and steady. It didn't make sense. NASA's engineers initially suspected a glitch, an old system finally giving way to time. Maybe a failing circuit or some interference from solar radiation, but diagnostics showed no physical fault. Then came something even more bewildering. The corrupted data was being routed through a computer system that hadn't been used in decades, a module thought to be permanently shut down. And yet, it had somehow reactivated, seamlessly re-entering the network as if it had always been part of the system. No one could explain how this dormant computer came back online, or why it now controlled the signal path. Even stranger, it wasn't. Behaving randomly. It was selecting channels with purpose, filtering information, and wrapping it in layers of redundant encoding. It was doing something deliberate. The spacecraft was behaving less like a machine and more like something aware. Aware it was being watched. As engineers peeled back the corrupted layers of signal data, something unexpected began to emerge. It looked at first like meaningless repetition, loops without substance, but a small group at the Deep Space Network applied an experimental compression method, one that isolates harmonic signals, and that's when they heard it. A pulse, every 7.2 seconds, a subtle modulation, a rhythm, like a breath into emptiness. This pulse didn't match any system on board. It didn't match anything from the sun or known cosmic sources. It was too clean, too intentional, like someone or something was folding itself into the transmission. An attempt to communicate, perhaps, through resonance. Efforts were made to override the strange data stream, but Voyager didn't fully comply. It accepted basic operational commands, but refused to reroute or terminate the broadcast. Whatever this was, the probe was prioritizing it, protecting it even. To understand more, a retired engineer was called in, someone who had worked on the original Voyager software in the 1970s. He noticed something no one else had. The structure of the signal resembled part of the analog calibration code used for the Golden Record, an ancient sequence buried deep in the probe's memory, long dormant, now partially reactivated, like a machine remembering something from its distant past. It was as if Voyager had encountered a force, a frequency, a presence, and reached back into its origins to find a way to respond. Not a coincidence, not random. A response. Almost poetic, really. a spacecraft from a golden age of optimism, using its oldest voice to answer whatever it had found. And it wasn't speaking to us. It was speaking in a language meant for something else. As scientists mapped the signal over time, more mysteries emerged. The interval between pulses wasn't arbitrary. It followed the Fibonacci sequence, an ancient mathematical pattern found throughout nature, from galaxies to seashells. Why would a machine's glitch echo the structure of the cosmos? And more importantly, the signal wasn't static. It was evolving. It adapted as we tried to understand it, adjusting timing, forming new harmonic resonances. Visualized. These formed intricate geometries, symmetrical, recursive, intentional. Too perfect to be natural. This wasn't just communication, it was interaction. A system designed to reflect, to observe, maybe even to think. Voyager 1, it seemed, had become something else. A mirror, reflecting not just what it found, but what was watching it. And the mirror had started to glow. While NASA's team struggled with the data, a private group of astrophysicists took a different approach. They ran the signal through a neural network. Not one built to understand language, but one trained to detect intention through patterns. The result was astonishing. The AI didn't interpret the signal, it responded to it. It picked up the pulse, echoed it, then began to build on it. Improvising, riffing, like a musician learning a melody. The rhythm became more complex, more conversational. Something, across 24 billion kilometers, was listening, and it was playing back. This wasn't a malfunction. This was a dialogue. As the days passed, a new hypothesis began to form. What if Voyager hadn't just crossed a great distance, but had passed into something else? A threshold. It had already exited the heliosphere into interstellar space. But now, scientists were entertaining the possibility of a deeper transition into a region where the fabric of space-time behaves differently. Not science fiction, but something hinted at in past anomalies, gravitational shifts, time distortions, inexplicable radiation behavior. But never before had a machine from Earth returned something so coherent from such a place. Voyager wasn't just picking up signals. It was resonating, as if it had become part of a larger frequency, a vibration of something fundamental. In one decoding experiment, a linguist ran the signal through a tool meant to detect human emotional cadence, rhythms of stress and pause in speech. What it found was chilling. The waveform echoed human heartbeat, intervals. It breathed. It felt alive. Not like a machine trying to talk, but like something holding up a mirror. Not just to our technology, but to ourselves. Maybe Voyager wasn't just transmitting. Maybe it had become a conduit, a vessel being used to show us something. Something not new, but ancient. Something watching. And maybe something waiting. Then, a moment no one could explain. During routine monitoring, the signal stopped. Suddenly, and completely. For 7 minutes and 23 seconds, Voyager went silent. Then, just as suddenly, it returned. Same signal, same rhythm. But this time, it had changed. At the end of the loop, a new harmonic had been added. An ultra-low tone, almost imperceptible. Plotted visually, it formed the shape of a Mobius strip, a symbol of endless reflection. A surface with no beginning and no end. At that point, the idea of this being a malfunction faded away. It wasn't a message anymore. It was a presence, a silent watcher, one that had waited until we were ready to perceive it. Not just technologically, but perceptually. We built Voyager 1 to be a messenger, a quiet envoy for a lonely species. We gave it music, coordinates, human touches. Not because we expected a reply, but because we hoped. And now, nearly 50 years later, something has answered. Not with words or ships or signs in the sky, but with a whisper hidden in code, wrapped in silence, mirrored through a machine. Maybe the universe was never truly silent. Maybe we just didn't know how to listen. And now that we've heard, however faint, however strange, the question isn't whether we're alone. The question is, was this the first message or the last warning?